Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back. Appreciate y'all being here. Really hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope everybody's doing well, healthy, wealthy, and wise, as we may say. Uh, today's today's society is really messed up. Am I not right? Uh, you got too much lawlessness going on, and it evidently seems like there's not enough law enforcement to enforce some of the rules, regulations, and laws in some states. It seems that we have a bunch of teenagers and 20 somethings that are just taking to the streets again and again. I know I've talked about this, but I mean, it's just getting darn weird. Uh, and we're losing control, and it's everywhere, and it's all under the guise of democratic socialism. Somebody sold these people on a bill of goods that is just completely wrong, and I don't see it any way back. You know, uh, Short of re-educating people, there's no way that they're going to go back thinking that you know socialism is a bad thing because they've been sold the goods that it's a good thing. Uh, I don't get it. Uh, you know, Being a conservative and being a capitalist, you know, your life is what you make of it. You know what I mean? A lot of it's up to God upstairs who helps you and get things done. But a lot, it's on your own. Uh, he kind of wants you, to rely on him, but he also wants you not to just not do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Uh, so he wants us, to be well and successful. We have freedom of choice. He gave us free will. But with everything going on in the world, I mean, like look at the Middle East again, right? Iran. One day straits are open, the next day they close them. The next day, U.S. fires on a ship, puts a hole in the back engine, they take over the ship. Uh, and then Iran wants to come back, maybe and talk again. You know, and I know that no matter what they do with Iran, right, they're never ever going to be able to comply because number one, we are the great Satan in their book, in their minds. So they can lie, cheat, and steal, do everything they want to us, and it's okay because that's why, you know. And putting all this pressure on fuel and which stretches down the line is, it goes into your, food supplies and food chains and the high prices of food, lack of rain all over the country. The crops are not getting the moisture that they need, necessarily, even around the world. They're just not like it should be. We need more rain. But all this has been prophesied, but doesn't neglect the fact that we need to prepare. You know what? Preparing for all this mess, and you hate to use the word stockpiling food and medicines and everything, but you prepare and you get what you need, what you're going to need for the next, I don't know, as long as you can. A good couple of years is what you should have in storage for water and ways to purify water, because that can ways to purify water can keep you with water from now on. You're still going to need protection. You're still going to need to be with more than just yourself. Uh, the stuff out there that's going on is, yeah, I call it biblical. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm wrong. But, I'm pretty sure that if we follow along with the prophecies tells normal common sense people they should prepare for the worst of times and, pray for the best of times. But you have to be ready for it. And we're looking at it. The high prices of food, high prices of gas come back up. Fuel is going to fluctuate like this all the time. Uh, will it ever get down to $3 a gallon or under $3 a gallon? Maybe. Uh, could it go to $5 a gallon? Yeah, could. Even more. And it's that way on the West Coast, but it's always high on the West Coast. But stuff you got to have, and something I'm still looking into more so, is to have an alternate power source. Solar generator is really where I'm leaning toward a big one, a couple of really big ones. They cost a lot of doggone money. I really don't want to spend that kind of money on them, but, I have a generator. And generator is good as long as you have fuel, uh, if you have a solar generator and you've got decent solar panels hooked up to them, You know, I'm not talking putting them on your house, not them. Of course, that's nice if you got the extra cash to do something like that, because that's what, 20 grand or better to put something like that in your house. Uh, which, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot. But to have a solar generator that you can set in your living room or in your kitchen and plug in your refrigerator and freezer and run a television and a light, you know, that's okay. And a couple of them is probably more necessary, because if you just have the one and say it lasts 17 hours, you know, on keeping your refrigerator, freezer, and a light and your TV on and stuff like that, you know, uh, that's great. But at some point, it's going to run down and you're going to have to recharge it. And so for that 4 to 6 hours, everything's going to be off power. So in a utopian world, right, and where everything is just fine and dandy, you would have two of those puppies, you know, and while one's fully charging all day long and the other one's running stuff, and this, of course, now this is if there's no power, but they're running your essentials, and then you swap them out, and then this charges, and while you use this one, you know. So I think two is the better way to go if you can afford it. One, I think it's mandatory these days, because you got the sun. You know, if the sun never comes back out, then it's not going to make a bit of difference. But you're going to run out of fuel, and you know, fuel stations, you know, gas stations, they're going to run out of fuel at some point. You know, depending if they can't get, you know, the food chain or, you know, the transportation, you know, keeping it going. You know what I'm saying? In other words, you know, there's no cuts in the supply chain, and that can happen. You know, that can happen anytime. That can happen for all kinds of reasons. And just saying, extra power source is something people need. Extra long-term storable food is something people need. Extra short-term food is something that people need. You know, your cabinets and stuff and cupboards need to be full. Your pantry needs to be filled up, smack dab with non-perishable goods, canned goods, you know, but other non-perishable goods. So it's a must. You know, sometimes you hate to keep talking about the same thing over and over, but it's just important that I learn, and it's important that other people learn. And I know everybody knows who watches this for sure. You've got to take care, and you got to be freaking doggone prepared. You know, it's one of those things. If you're not prepared, well, then, you know, you got nobody to blame but yourself. So we can't trust the government to come and save you. You know, my rule of philosophy is that nobody's coming to save you here on Earth. Let's get that straight. But nobody's coming to save you. You know, you can't rely on the government. You know, they're just barely holding on as it is. They can't even get things straight now. So, you know, one side, the other side, and they're all just coming together. You know, it's a mess. So I'm just saying, get prepared if you're not prepared. And of course, if you're not prepared, you need to really start yesterday, because you run out of time. You know, time's running out. No one knows actually when the end of everything is going to happen. But between now and the actual end, when things really do happen and end, you know, we're going to have a FUBAR, big time, end time, in between all this stuff, right? It's going to be FUBAR. And we're going to have to be ready for it. So make a checklist, check it twice. If you're naughty or nice, right? But no, all kidding aside, be prepared. Have all your food, water supplies, medicine, all that good stuff. That's all I can say. It's the best thing to do. In the unlikely event that you would never need it or use it, eat it, drink it, you know? That's what it's there for. But if it gets to the point where you can't get out and about, you can't go to grocery stores, and even if you could, they weren't supplied, having all this stuff on the side, stashed away, is going to be a blessing. You know, it is. So, all right, then, hey, look, appreciate y'all being here. I so much appreciate y'all being here. Keep the faith, cover your six, and stay healthy. Biggest thing you can do out there is stay healthy, because if you're sick and in bad times, when you can't maybe get to a doctor or something, no medicines, then you're screwed. So, all right, then, hey, look, nothing but love for you guys. I truly mean it. Until next time, we'll catch you later.